so weiter. Und das ist einfach zu gefährlich
for the
für die
people
Bevölkerung,
and for whoever's riding him.
für die Reiter dann auch.
That's why the young horse will have to leave the mounted squad again soon. Next morning, there's a special training session on the cards today. Every 2 weeks, a trainer from police headquarters stops by. Michael Günther prefers to saddle an experienced horse for this event. A beginner like young Lester wouldn't be able to cope with the events of the next few hours.
So, fangen wir an. Bitte mal Aufstellung nehmen. In einer Reihe hier, Front, hier raus. Vor mich, eine Reihe.
Special trainer Reinhard Götzmann knows every service horse here, as well as all their strengths and weaknesses.
Wenn ich persönlich begrüßt habe zum heutigen Einsatztraining.
During these special training events, the officers regularly check whether the horses are still adequately resilient to stress. The horses are gradually put under more and more pressure. First, they have to cope with noise and flapping objects.
So.
The really old hands aren't in any way fazed by such gimmicks, but the 4 to 5-year-old beginners can be brought to their limit with a flapping rubbish bag.
So.
When they start their training, the horse senses the stress factors, and the rider is aware of that because the horse is tense. We try to reduce these stress factors through play. We'll do that today, too. And then the rider praises the horse, showing it that it's done a good job. The horse wouldn't have done it alone, but together, as a team, they did it. That's how we gradually build it up, and at some point, they just accept it.
At the next level, the animals have to cope with contact with unfamiliar objects. The noise causes additional stress.
Ja, komm her, komm. Hier, fein. Mach einen Jog, ja? Du, machst du das? Komm, du kannst das, komm. Ordnet. Komm her. Fein. Gleich Stück noch was rein. Gut.
So far, the animals are coping well with the training, but it's tangible how difficult they find it despite years of practice.
Everything we're doing here is extremely difficult for a normal horse, but that's why we're doing it. They need to cope with the situations out in the real world. It would be bad if a police horse just bolted.
Big, heavy horses are chosen for police service. They command respect.
Ich probiere jetzt mal ein bisschen damit, was ich normalerweise nicht mache. Okay, im Prinzip habe ich da schon genug. Okay, alles klar. Achtung, vorne noch mal aufpassen, ich komme noch mal.
It's said that in riots, one trained mounted officer can replace up to 30 officers on foot.
Gut, okay.
But even though they have a dominant appearance, the riders are sometimes attacked. The horses have to cope with that too, and so those situations have to be practiced regularly.
It's all taken from everyday life. We don't have to play football with the horse, but it can happen that something gets thrown at us. We've had rubbish bins come our way, and we're rehearsing this with a ball to make sure the horses are quite resistant to that.
Hey, geschwatzt! Hey, ja, ja, hey, ja! Oh, das geht mir nicht. Hey,
They take it up another notch. They're rehearsing particularly hectic situations, the kind that occurred during demonstrations and football matches.
Scheißpferde! Hopp! Hey! Was? Gut, okay.
Gehen Sie nach hinten weg.
Ja, ich ergebe mich. Gut, alles klar.
Exercises like this are to strengthen the sensitive animal's self-confidence.
Die Reiter gewinnen.
The exercises are designed so that the riders win. They have to win. Whether they end up winning in the real world remains to be seen. But the horses are supposed to see that they're being successful now. They've pushed me away. I'm the bad guy, and their rider praises them. They know they've done a good thing, and we build on that basis. When things get serious later, we have to wait and see. But experience shows that this is how to keep them going. I can direct the horses to go forward.
Gut, machen wir das gleiche nochmal mit euch. Aufpassen, ich störe, mich abdrängen. So viel Störer. Hey, top, frei, Reiter, hau dir ab, der Reiter. Mach, dass er fortkommt. Hopp, fort, fort, frei, fort, fort. Hey.
Gehen Sie zurück.
Ja, vom Jäger, komm. Ah, fort, Pferd, komm, komm. Hey, fort, fort. Hey, hey, hau dir ab, was an. Also, Feier. Hey, 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 halt ab, was ist? Halt ab, halt ab, halt ab. Halt ab. Komm, setz nach. Komm. Ja. Gut. Ruhe.
It's a few days later, a second league football game, Karlsruhe against Union Berlin. The fans of both clubs have been enemies for a long time. Serious fights between the hooligans are to be expected. Several hundred police officers are here to prevent that. During such matches in the region, the mounted officers from Mannheim are regularly called out. At the moment, Michael Günther and his colleagues are observing a group of Berlin fans. Some of these are quite willing to be violent. Even before the match, they clashed with Karlsruhe fans.
The first confrontations occurred. The groups were separated, and we accompanied the Berlin group to the stadium. The group from Karlsruhe are there already, I hope. So we'll see how this carries on.
Michael Günther is riding an older horse today, one that's been to many football matches and that's reliable. Even though everything appears to be under control here, the mood can tip very quickly, and then he and his colleague would have to intervene at once. Again and again, there are minor squabbles between the fans, but at the moment, the police are in control. Since the riders dropped off the fans from Berlin, they've been monitoring the plaza in front of the stadium. From a height of almost 3 meters, they've got a good overview and can spot trouble from quite a distance. They're fairly safe themselves while they're on horseback.
I've been hit by stones and a bottle, but I haven't been injured.
What about the horse?
The horse hasn't been injured either yet. We've had no injured horses at football games so far.
Nevertheless, they're cautious. These operations are exhausting, says Michael, because they have to be aware of their surroundings while also knowing all the time how the horse is doing. Today's game is particularly critical. It's the last of the season. The home team is facing relegation to the third league and has to win. Thankfully, they take an early lead and the situation becomes somewhat less tense. Some of the officers can take a break. The riders and their horses are using the opportunity to relax a little. But it's not a long break. The head of today's mounted unit is told there's been a fight where one Karlsruhe fan received life-threatening injuries. Now they have to worry about acts of revenge after the game.
The others witnessed it. The other fans want to avenge what happened, so we have to be a bit careful. We always have the standard fights, but if we have attempted murder, then that's a bit more serious.
Versuchtes Tötungsdelikt im Raum steht, dann ist das schon ein bisschen heftiger.
The 21-year-old fan is said to have a fracture at the base of the skull. That changes the situation, of course. All the available officers are positioned as quickly as possible so that the rival groups can't meet after the final whistle. In such cases, only a massive police presence can maintain the peace. Even though the officers have a lot of experience with such situations, the atmosphere's tense. Suddenly, things get hectic. A group of Berlin fans have set off towards the town center. These are the situations for which the mounted officers are needed. They're fast and can control larger groups of people. In light of the overwhelming police presence, the fans decide to return to the stadium under the close surveillance of Michael Günther and his colleagues. Once back at the stadium, the Berlin fans are loaded onto buses that will take them to the station or the motorway. A short while later, they're on their way, and the police officers are relieved they didn't have to get involved. Karlsruhe has won the game and hasn't gone down a league. Most fans are already celebrating in pubs and bars, so the mounted officers can go home. The next morning at 8 o'clock, Michael Günther is back in Lester's saddle. It's part of his job to turn the new horses into perfect riding horses. He's quickly realizing that Lester has learned a lot in his earlier life and is already quite a well-trained dressage and show-jumping horse. That's why the officers focus on making him resilient to stress again. They're increasing the amount of stress they exposed him to last week by making the ball bounce a lot. But once again, Lester is demonstrating that it'll take more to impress him.
His reaction is quite incredible, especially when it goes above his head. They don't like things above their heads, and he's a young horse. That he can stay standing like that makes me confident he'll be a police horse one day.
But 2 more years will pass before that happens. Maybe Lester will replace Gandhi, who can then enjoy his well-earned retirement.